And that was me at one point, believe it or not. Every single magician has one thing in common, and that is the cold, harsh truth. You can't have... Shall we start? Are we live? Are we live right now? 1, 2 to the 3. Let me put my phone on silento. Hi guys, how are we all doing? Welcome back to the Ricky2ra Podcast, episode 69. Hey. Yeah, so we're back, and we're here to attack, and yeah, I'm good, I'm very well actually on this Monday afternoon, a bit cold in the shop, but you know, we're here, and we're going to jump straight into this episode. I hope you guys are keeping well, and without further ado, let's just go straight into it. The title of this episode is The Truth About Being a Magician. Now, as you guys know, I am a magician, of course. I'm also a shopkeeper, big up the shopkeepers, but I am a magician. That is my passion and kind of my superpower, and something that I was curious about a long time ago that I've kind of developed along the years and managed to make some money out of it. Not much, but some, I managed to turn a passion and monetize it in some sort of way through gigs. And yeah, I'm just going to tell you my opinion, the truth about being a magician, because on this podcast, I've talked about, magic's so cool, there's so much magic you can learn and stuff like that. And, performing, you can just break the ice, you can be such a cool magician and stuff. I've talked about all the cool things, but I haven't really told you, the truth about being a magician, kind of the work that goes into it. And I may have told you briefly about practice, but practice is just a word, and I feel like practice is not enough to kind of justify the amount of effort that goes into the craft. And I believe there's a lot more work that goes into it than just shown in the front end. There's a lot that goes into the back end, and I believe even myself, I'm not putting enough effort into it. I'm always saying to myself every day, am I putting enough effort into magic? Because I do deliberate practice now, meaning I practice at certain times of the day for a certain amount of time. Whereas previously, where I was very curious about magic, I just practice all the time. You can do either, and I will, talk about this in the episode. However, it's not for everyone, being a magician. There's a lot of people I know that have done magic, but never really stuck to it. And that was me at one point, believe it or not. That was me at one point. I'm talking about stuff right now that I haven't even written in my notes. So this is how dedicated I am to this topic, people. Yes, that's right, you heard that right. Even myself at one point, I was not dedicated to the craft at one point. But it was always in my mind. And I feel like it separates people from actually just wanting to know how magic's done to actually learning the craft for such a long time, decades on decades on decades on decades, getting better, and then eventually becoming a master in their field. However, I am going to stick to my notes for this one, but I have some stories to tell. And Yes. I thought I picked up the wrong notes then. I'd wrote a few notes from the past couple of episodes on the other side. So let's start off with the truth. And the truth is, it's not easy being a magician. You can apply this to any industry, but I'm talking about magic here. So if you are listening and you're like, Ricky, I am not a magician, I'm interested in what you're saying, but can I apply this to my industry or my craft or whatever I am? The answer is yes, you can. Just replace the word magician with what you are and it will literally be the exact same thing. So, it's not easy. It is not easy at all being a magician. Why, Ricky? Why is it not easy? Why can't I just learn something and perform it and be the best in the world, do David Blaine type level magic and Dynamo type magic and be in Las Vegas doing a show? And the answer to that is because not everybody makes it. You've got to put a lot of time and effort into magic consistently, year after 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 year. I can go on. I can literally go on forever. And what I mean by that is you've got to be dedicated enough that you build up the experience and become the man in that field. I'm going to tell you a quick story. I was in sixth form, so this is the school days, and I'm talking about probably 2013/2014, so about a decade ago, let's call it a decade ago, and I was very, very, very curious of magic, and I just started to perform. And when I mean started, I mean like showing friends and people in my class. So I was very eager to perform and show my friends. Now, I'd shown them a particular magic effect. It was an oil and water effect. And what I mean by that is I have 4 red cards, 4 black cards. I separate them. Apologies. I put them together, so red, black, red, black, red, black in one pile. I clip my fingers and I turn all the cards over and they're separated. We got all the red cards on one side and all the black cards on the other side. And I remember it was in an ICT class. I didn't even do ICT, I just used to hang about in that class. But anyway, yes, so I'd done that perfect and they were all amazed. And then all of a sudden, they wanted to know how it was done. So I kind of generated that curiosity. But then, some of them actually wanted to learn magic, which made me happy. You know, I'm a 16-year-old kid. You know, I'm like, cool, I could do with more friends in magic. So one of them started learning and started showing me stuff, and I was really impressed actually. You know, caught on pretty quick. I was like, wow, nearly quicker than me learning this. And then, as the weeks went on, I didn't really see much magic. And then as the months went on, I didn't see anything. And then as the year went on, it was just... Obviously he's my friend. But yeah, no magic, and I was still doing it, and I was performing at that point for strangers and stuff like that. The moral of the story is, you've got to have fun, obviously, but it's a lot of hard work. And everything at the start, you're always curious about everything new at the start. But it's actually how long you hold on to that for, and are you actually dedicated to it? So for all the magicians out there, you know, for the ones that you know, for the ones that you don't know, for the ones that you will discover, or maybe someone like me, every single magician has one thing in common, and that is the dedication to the craft. That's it. You've got to have the dedication. It's not like I'm going to do magic for 5 years and then I'm going to call it a day. You're basically doing magic for the rest of your life. It's basically that. And as scary as that sounds to somebody that's new, and it's like, flipping hell, man, I've just wanted to know how a trick was done. Fair enough. That's fine. That's fine. There's millions of videos on YouTube that reveals magic tricks. However, if you actually want to be a magician, I am just telling you the cold-hearted truth that you've got to dedicate your life to it. Now, I'm not saying dedicate 10 hours a day to it and just sack everything else off. I am not saying that. I am saying if you take a certain amount of time out of your day, let's just start off small, 10 minutes, 20 minutes, 30 minutes, 1 hour, 2 hour, whatever you're comfortable with, and you do that every single day, the progression will show. However, if you're not dedicated to it and it's just something that you like and you're just going to go off it, then it is not for you, unfortunately. So that is probably the cold hard fact about being a magician, is that you've got to be dedicated to the craft. And I've put that as my first point because that's the core point. That's the core point to anything, really. So for the magicians out there that are listening to this, I hope you agree with me that that is the number one fact. We were all curious at one point whether you got a magic set for Christmas or your birthday, and you were curious about that. You've seen somebody on TV like myself and you got curious that way, or maybe somebody had shown you a magic trick and you just got intrigued in it, and then you got more and more curious, and then all of a sudden, next thing you know, you're performing and possibly making money out of it. That is point number one, people. Now, a little extension. It's point two, but it's a little extension onto my first point. You've got to have discipline to practice. And that's the cold, harsh truth. That is the cold, harsh truth. You can't have motivation to do magic. You've got to have the discipline. Motivation can only stick with you for so long. What's an example of motivation, Ricky? Well, that's basically like me now going watching a load of Dynamo YouTube videos online of him performing, and I'm just there like, yeah, go on, do it. I don't know why I'm doing this with my hands like it's a boxing match, but yeah, that's basically me watching a load of Dynamo videos, him doing like a coin in can or like a phone in bottle, like, yeah, I can do that, yeah, and then you call it a day and you're like, that's my magic done. That is not practice, that is motivation, my friend. Discipline practice is you actually fundamentally learning a move or learning a type of technique or performance, and then sticking to a certain amount of time every day for whatever, 1 month, 2 months, however long it takes you, recording it, looking back, making mistakes, tweaking it, and then going back, recording it until you get it right, performing it. You might fail, then you go, what did I fail at? And then you go back, and it's discipline. That's basically it. I'm literally just telling you everything to it. This is not me telling you how to do a trick. This is not me, I'm not coming out as an expert of this stuff that I'm telling you about. I'm just saying what I've learned from it, from my personal experience, from somebody that's kind of been curious about it, just done a load of magic practice, never performed for anybody, finally started to perform, and then kind of, I wouldn't say fall out of love, but kind of stopped doing it, but it was in the back of my mind, and then now I'm back on it. I've gone through all the slumps so far in my life, in my magic journey, from what I know. So I'm just telling you my experiences from this, and I feel like I'm not an expert, but I'm just telling you my truth, and hopefully this inspires somebody or whatever industry you're in to kind of, maybe if one of these points resonate with you, let me know. But if they do, I hope it does help. I've got a quick story. I like doing story times for this, I like a little story time. We're talking probably when I first started magic, practicing. So you're talking about 2011, 2012. This was when I was at school, so I was in year 10, year 11? I'd say year 10. So I was about, 12 years old, 13 years old. And I'd come home from school, I'd eat, and then I'd go upstairs, I'd look on YouTube, and then I'd just start learning magic, and legit, no lie, I'd be practicing for 4 or 5 hours, and I'd even forget sometimes to do my homework, and I'd have to do it, rush it for the next day. And I just remember learning the civil cut. And if you don't know what the civil cut is, look it up. It's basically the Dynamo Shuffle, but the actual name of the cut is Civil Cut. I remember I was learning that off 52 Cards, who was called Decks and Contests. Shout out to the OGs that know about that. Yeah, so I was learning the Civil Cut. I remember I was in my economics class, I'm fast forwarding now to my economics class in 2014, and I remember I was going over that in my head, how the Civil Cut worked, because I knew how to do it, but it was just in my head. I wasn't really bothered about economics. I was just bothered about the Civil Cut, because Dynamo used to do it, and I was like, damn, I'm going to do that in my next gig or whatever when I'm performing and stuff like that. And the moral of the story is I was obsessed with it. It's made me happy that I like the word obsessed. I was obsessed with just doing the moves, trying to be like Dynamo. I hadn't really found my own style, but I used to practice more than doing my actual homework. That's basically the story. And I believe at that moment of time it had paid off from what I was doing. So just like my first points, I've said you've got to be dedicated to the craft. You can't just half-arse it. You can't bullshit this game of Magic, and I have done that at times. Not meaning that I've half-assed practice, but meaning that I've kind of not took it as seriously as I should have in the past couple of years. However, you've got to go down in order to go back up, and that is where your boy is right now. So the other truth about being a magician, I don't even know what point we're on, third point I'm saying. So the other truth about being a magician, actually, time out, okay? We're 16, nearly 17 minutes in. If you've come this far, right, make sure to leave a like, subscribe, don't even get off yet. Don't even click off this, don't even shut this down. Come on, I'm spitting facts right now, guys. Come on, let's leave a like. It lets me know that I'm doing something right. Subscribe if you like this. You don't have to subscribe, but it helps me if you want to. But yeah, let me know if you're enjoying this, guys. So let me go on to my third point, which is you have to perform to anybody as soon as possible. Now, I have talked about this, but this is probably the key thing after discipline, practice. It's performing. Look, the cold hard truth about being a magician is you can't be a magician if you don't perform. It's just a hobby, okay? Like, even if it is a hobby, you still have to perform. I'm just thinking about it now. You've got to perform, whether that's for your mum, your dad, your brother, your sister, your cousin, your friends, your family, your aunt, uncle, whatever. You've still got to perform it. It's like being a singer and just singing in your bedroom, and it's like, well, are you performing for anyone? You know what I mean? It kind of reminds me of 8 Mile, where Eminem is this banging outside the shop. It's a door I forgot to close. Anyway, back to the topic. Yeah, it reminds me of Eminem, where it's like he's just throwing up his mum's spaghetti in the bathroom when he can't perform, and it's like, well, you can't really be great unless you perform. So that's a point in which you can't really progress further into magic unless you perform. And from 2011 to 2014, I didn't really perform for any strangers. It was mainly my family and my friends. So for a good 3 years, I didn't really show people like that I didn't know. And now I can really go up to anybody. I don't really care if they say no. If I'm frankly honest with you, I couldn't give a crap if they say no, because I'll just end up going to the next person or a different person. And if they do want to see it, it's happy days. It's happy days, but you've got to go out there and perform. You've got to go out there and fail. You've got to go out there and just show anything. Just show them your pack of cards. I'm a magician. Hello, good night. Do you know what I mean? But obviously show them something, but, I was exaggerating there. Let's see what else I got on the list, guys, because, your boy's just gone on some stuff. I didn't even need my notes for this, if I'm honest with you. Yeah, you won't get recognised straight away, but you'll get better with experience. So don't expect it to be David Blaine level on, your first year of magic. Just bear in mind that David Blaine's been in the magic scene since the 90s, and we're in 2023, so well over 2 decades. Do you know what I mean? So, before Dynamo was performing a long time, street magic gigs and stuff like that before he came mainstream. So if you're just going into magic thinking that you're just going to be famous, you're doing it all wrong. You're thinking about everything wrong. It shouldn't be that, because the more you think about it to become famous, the more it won't happen. And if you just dedicate yourself to the craft, slowly but surely you will get recognised. And the more you perform, the more you get better with experience. You kind of know how to handle people and things like that. I've talked about this in my other episodes, so I'm not going to really dive into much deeper on them. But the brilliant things about being a magician is that you have the power to bring people together, and you can just bring strangers together, one stranger, another stranger together. And and I feel like, because I do my little lean-ins to this, I feel like you've got a responsibility as being a magician. And it always reminds me of that quote from Spider-Man where Uncle Ben goes, "With great power becomes great responsibility." And being a magician actually is a superpower, guys. You can literally have a deck of cards on you and you can go anywhere in the world and show anyone. They don't even have to know your language, like English or whatever. They'll understand it. Like, I've done so many, like I was performing in London a couple of weeks ago, just randomly at a family function, and the music was so loud, but the magic spoke for itself. And it's kind of like, it's so universal, it's a superpower, and you have to perfect it to the point where people can understand it and react to it, and how you bring people together as a whole. I feel like being a magician is the best superpower ever. I couldn't imagine myself doing anything else other than being a magician. Obviously, I'm a shopkeeper as well, as you can see if you're watching on YouTube, but other than that, I feel like I can go anywhere in the world, show anyone something and just amaze them, astonish them, and bring out that childlike emotion into them, guys. Guys, we're running up to 22 minutes, 23 nearly. Guys, I'm going to end the podcast episode here. I'm going to end on a story, okay? If you've come this far, I'm going to tell you about a little failure story. And this story is when I used to go to my old barbers. This is going to be a good way to end the podcast, because it's not a bright story. It's a story about failure. My old barbershop, I used to show them magic and I was the bomb. I used to show them magic and they were like, cool, come in next time. So I remember one time I went in and it was coin magic. Now, I don't really do that much coin magic, but I was very in love with this coin effect. And I remember going in thinking, you know what, I'm going to do like absolutely, going to go crazy. And I remember showing them it, and there was a particular sleight of hand move that didn't go particularly well. And it was very obvious with what I was doing. And these people that I was doing magic to at the barbers, they weren't particularly I wouldn't say not friendliest, but they weren't supportive, which is good, because I wouldn't have learned anything from this story. Anyway, they were calling me out straight away. Bearing in mind I was like 17, 18. But it doesn't matter the age. And I was like, no, I didn't do that. Even though I did, but it was like, what else was there for me to do? The moral of the story is, I didn't want to perform that ever again. That because I felt like I was shit. However, I have performed that. I wouldn't say many times, but I've still performed that effect every now and again after. And I've learned exactly from that mistake. So learning from your mistakes is probably one of the best things you can do about magic. Because if you can't fail at magic, you will not grow in magic. And if you don't fuck up, you will not rise again. Boys and girls, ladies, gentlemen, I hope you guys have enjoyed this episode. My name is Ricky2ra. I will see you guys for the big episode 70 next week. This has been your boy Ricky2ra. Peace, stay strong, and remember, always follow your dreams.